video sponsored by Revopoint. So for the past 8 months or so, I've been using this desk setup, which I constructed on the channel. It was part of a series, and it's the main production workhorse behind the entire YouTube channel. Pretty much everything I do for the channel, I do behind this desk setup. So the talking heads, the editing, some of the filming. It's a first point of contact in the morning and last point of contact in the evening. And so I've grown to really appreciate it. It's been one of the best setups that I've had so far, but it was built as a prototype, and there are some prototypey faults in it that I'd like to get sorted out. And that means that we're going to have to start from scratch, which on the one hand, I'm not looking forward to, because it took a long time to get this setup up and running in the way that it is right now, with all of the functionality and also stability that it offers. But I'm also quite excited for this one, because we can learn from this iteration and make something that is even closer to the ultimate production desk setup. So this is episode 1 in volume 2 of creating the ultimate production desk setup for my YouTube channel. I hope that makes sense. There's a couple of things that I've learned from this iteration which I want to implement on the next iteration. So 3D printed inserts are sticking around, but the entire desk will be a little bit wider. And in terms of the overall design aesthetic as well, I actually prefer if the desk is a little bit larger than the stuff that's placed on top of it. So this time around, I'm hoping that everything sticks within the boundaries of the desk itself. But in general, the entire aesthetic looks pretty similar to the original one. So eventually I landed on this main design, so to say. So it's the main body of the build. Same kind of structure. So we have that bottom plate, which is all connected. This time around, it's a little bit wider. So it also allowed like Windows computers to be stacked down below over here. So something that has changed a lot in relation to the current setup is the entire frame, which holds the monitors and lights and all of the production gear in place, like the cameras and stuff. And this is now aluminium extrusions, 45x45. So in the original setup, we have E7 Pro legs, which work fine, but you can see that the entire desk setup is tilted backwards a little bit, and it does wobble quite a lot when you're actually typing behind it. So I'd like to upgrade to the E7 Qs for this one. It has 4 legs and also 4 motors. Now, to help out with the design process, Revopoint actually sent over their latest 3D scanner, the MetroY. They offer 2 versions, the MetroY and the MetroY Pro. And this is a really neat 3D scanner that we'll use to 3D scan all of the components that we already own and want to implement into the desk, so that we can accommodate that in the design process before we actually start the construction process. And the 3D scanner looks absolutely amazing. Like, the design of this thing is really futuristic, and that also reflects the device itself. So it comes packaged really neatly in this case with all of the accessories to make it work. So a power cable, a USB-C cable. So one of the first things I'd like to scan and integrate into the setup is this Novation keyboard. So it offers a couple different scanning modes. We have a cross-line pattern, parallel pattern, or single line pattern. You can connect this keyboard to Ableton and create some tunes. And initially when I bought it, I wanted to create my own sounds, and not necessarily music, but just like ambient mixes for the channel. I'd really like to get back to that and see if we can sort that out this time around. So as you can see, the scanning process was a little bit slow, and that's because my system requirements aren't up to spec according to the software. I found that kind of strange because I do use other 3D scanners and those work perfectly on this exact same machine. Didn't mean that I couldn't complete the scan though, it was just a little bit less intuitive to do this. So that keyboard will be placed in one of these 3D printed inserts over here. It's a bit of a bigger one, so we'll have to see how we're going to be printing this one. But yeah, currently I don't actually produce any of the music on my channel. I get it from Epidemic Sound. But what happens quite often is that I accommodate the video to the type of music I can find, and I never really, experiment with attempting to make the music match the video. So I'd like to see if I can do that. This next one is pretty simple. It's a Tobin 1 dock, Thunderbolt 4. You can connect this to a computer, and you get a bunch more outputs and a bunch of I/O at the front there as well, which is quite neat. 3D scanner held up pretty nicely with this one. It's a reflective device, and we didn't need any scanning spray to actually scan this, so that's pretty neat. So we have this hub, but the main thing that I'm interested in is not actually the display ports at the back, but the USB ports at the front, USB-C, but the SD card slots are incredibly useful as well. And then maybe we'll custom mount a CF Express Type B card slot at the top over there, just to accommodate the cards that I use. Now in terms of that other hub, we have a Thunderbolt 4 dock, which is from Razer. I've had this one for a while, and I'm not utilizing it anymore. But I'd like to mount the MacBook mount at the back over here, and then add some additional cooling fans to it as well. So some of this stuff, like this Wacom tablet, did have a space before, but because I moved to a new studio space, some of the stuff got taken apart and didn't get put back together. This one 3D scanned really quite nicely as well. It's a dark reflective surface, and usually 3D scanners have quite a difficult time with this. So one of these Wacom tablets is really useful for, doing some Photoshop work, and having that on the right side where you'd normally find the mouse as well could be very useful for creating stuff. And Keychron sent over a bunch of keyboards throughout last year, so integrating this one in there as well. This is the Q11 split keyboard. It's been holding up really great. 3D scanning this one wasn't necessarily top priority, so I didn't do too good of a job at 3D scanning there. But it is nice that you can see in the design how big the keyboard is in relation to the rest of the setup. Of course, the Keychron keyboard is pretty simple, but I 3D scanned these because initially I wanted to embed them into the body of the build, so I put some 3D printed inserts down here as well. Not entirely sure if that's going to be a good idea, because sometimes you just want to swap out keyboards. I did that on the concept desk setup build, and that turned out really quite nice. As for the audio interface, I've used this Audio Box Go in a lot of different scenarios actually. So it has this 3D printed case around it. I removed that and we'll just create a new 3D printed insert for this one. I have thought about getting a Rodecaster and just mounting that in a similar position to the Behringer Flow 8 that's on the current setup as well. Now this is where the 3D scanner comes in really nicely, because this is a PCB. We need to integrate this into a new 3D print. And actually measuring where all of those knobs are is going to be pretty difficult with a pair of calipers. So having that 3D scan available is going to allow the modeling process to be a lot more fluid. I think the most optimal placement is in the side over here, so that when you're sitting at a desk, the cable is neatly out of the way. It's not going over the desktop, and you can have access to the controls, but it might actually be worth it to embed it a little bit so that you don't hit the buttons accidentally. So make a little indent so that the buttons barely stick out like that. So you'll notice that I'm mostly just roughly concepting stuff and not actually modeling anything out yet. That's because the entire setup is still a little bit in flux. I want to make sure that I get this right and that I don't start drilling holes in places where we won't actually need any inserts. So brings us to the speakers, and I really love the Edifier R12 80dB speakers that I have on my current setup, so I just remodeled those. And those will be mounted on these aluminium extrusions. Not entirely sure how yet, because there is some I/O at the back. Next thing is the Elgato teleprompter. This one's actually from my on-the-go kit for my video production work, so might need to get a new one if we integrate it in this setup. But it is really neat to have that on the setup if you need to read something out into the camera, and it can really help out the entire process. So I do these things in series because it's really neat to see the suggestions from the comment section as well, and actually start implementing this into the design process. So definitely leave a like, leave a comment, also subscribe to the channel if you'd like to stay updated with the series. So I'd like to go back to a semi-ultra-wide monitor, not like G9 ultra-wide, but this one is 21:9 I believe. And I've really liked that form factor for a long time. On the setup I have right now, it didn't fit because speakers would overhang so much that it didn't look too good. And I went back to 16:9. But it's incredibly useful for production work. So I'm actually quite excited for this one. This is one of those series that I can be busy with for a couple of months, and you'll probably get bored of it before I do, but I really enjoy working on setups. It's how this channel started out, and I hope you'll stick around for this series as well. So hopefully it gave you some inspiration, and see you in the next episode.